chipping is giving you some stress around the greens. It's making you feel pretty anxious every time you get within 20 meters of the green. You've got to try and get over a bunker. That gives you a nightmare. Then hang around, because this video is going to be for you, and we're going to give you some solutions as to how you can play a little more stress-free around the greens. So hang around. G'day all. So today I want to talk a little bit more about some things that might help you with your chipping around the greens and create a little bit of a lower stress environment when you're within that 15-20 meters and trying to go over a bunker or something like that. So I've spoken in the past in other videos about how the low point in the swing is a really important part. The point where you're first hitting the ground, you've got to be able to recognize that so that you can actually get the ball position right there and get a much greater chance of hitting the ball in the club face, and then judge distance better with that. But there are other things that make contact that a little bit easier. So I'm going to talk about something called bounce today, and maybe even a bit of grind. Now you might sit there and go, what has that got to do with anything? Well, that's a couple of pieces of terminology that golf club manufacturers use to describe two things on a golf club. So what I've got here is I've got a Titleist Vokey sandwich. You can see, ooh, that's a bit bright. You can see at the back there, Titleist. Okay, but some of the numbers that you might see on one of these things is a bit different. So on the toe of the club here, you can see I've got 54, 14, F. Now 54 degrees stands for the amount of loft. So the angle that that club face is back right there, okay? The 14 is the one that might be confusing you a little bit. Well, the 14 is to do with the bounce, okay? Now that is the angle you can see here from the front to the back on that club there. If I go in really close, that the back edge here is lower than the front edge. Can you see that on my finger there? That's called the bounce. So the angle from horizontal to there is 14 degrees on this club. Okay, so I'll get to why that is important in a minute. But the other thing we've got is the F. Now that's to do with the grind. Now you can see on the back of this one here that it's fairly flat, and if I swing it around this way a little bit more as well, you can see that there's not much been taken off the back edge here. It's fairly sharp. I'll give you a look at another one here, which is called which one's this one? A D grind. Okay, so on this one you can see we've got 58 with 12 degrees and a D grind. So you can see that there's been a little bit taken off of this back edge. And you can see there's a little bit of a curve to it as I move it around, and that's called the grind there. You can see really clearly here, we've taken some off here and the back. Now with Vokeys, that's a standard thing that you can order straight off the shelf. So they've got all sorts of different grinds. I'll show you a little clip of that maybe as I'm talking over the top here, with all the various different options of grinds, bounces, lofts, lies. All of it is pretty variable, and they've got a bunch of different clubs that you can actually choose from. Now you might sit there and go, wow, there's so many to choose from, but what are they actually going to do? Well, okay, let's talk about what the bounce is going to do. So the bounce, I want you to imagine a bulldozer or a grader blade with an angle on the blade like that. So it's on a curve like that, so that as it's pushing along the ground, it's going to glide across the top and smooth out all the ground. This bounce on the club there, that angle there, like that, is going to do the same thing. So as this club comes down to hit the ground, you're going to try and hit that back edge on the ground, and what it's going to do is it's going to stop that club from digging into the ground so much. It's not going to grab in the ground. So for any of you that have been sitting there and trying to hit chip shots, and the biggest thing is a club grabbing in the ground, sticking in the turf, and I'll do a couple of demonstrations you can have a look at here of one where the club is digging into the ground and hasn't got much bounce on it, it'll dig in, then that may be an issue that a club can help solve. So if you're someone who puts the ball, likes to put the ball back in the stance a little bit, have your hands forward, reduce the loft and chip like that, then something like this F grind with a lot of this back here still there is going to stop this club from digging in the ground. So this is a really good club for those types of chippers, okay? But if you're someone that's having trouble hitting the ground, bouncing up and then hitting the ball and blading it over back because the ground's really firm, a bit like it can get up here on the Gold Coast in the middle of winter when it's really dry, or down south in Adelaide or Melbourne where it's really tight, kind of firm ground on the couch grass, well then something like this is going to work better. So you can see that the front edge has got quite a bit of bounce on it, still got quite a big angle that way, but the back edge has been ground away, and the more you go to the toe, you can see how more's been ground off, or the heel, this way more's been ground off. Now that's going to mean you can open the face up, and it's going to be able to get underneath that ball like that, you can see there, much easier, and not bounce up off the turf. So that's what this bounce and the grind actually do on a wedge. So if you're not sure about your clubs, or if you've never even thought about that side of things, then there's an easy solution to the problem. What you can do is come along to a fitting day. We've got one coming up pretty soon, so you can contact me and see if you can book in for one of those. But more than anything, we've even got a couple of demos here with an F grind and that D grind, and you can come along and just feel what happens without doing any pressure of having to hit to a target or anything. Just feel what happens when the club actually hits the ground and see it reacts differently. And through my experience of doing a lot of these fittings over time, is most people will find somewhere in these wedges one feels a lot better than the others. They might not know why. I know it's because of the grind, the bounce suits their chipping style or that ground that they're playing off. So that's something that I want you to think about. If you're having trouble with your short game, there's two things. Maybe you need to come along for a bit of a technique lesson, or maybe it is actually the clubs that are causing you the trouble. It's pretty simple. Come and see us and we'll be able to work that out for you and see which one might provide that solution, and once again give you a much lower stressful experience around the greens and give you a lot more enjoyment in your game. So it's Paul Williamson here signing off. If you enjoyed this video, please have a look at the rest of my videos, here or here. Send this to any mates. Please actually make some comments down below. If you've got any questions about grinds and clubs and things like that, then by all means, please give us a call. Comment down below if you've got any videos that you want me to actually kind of cover a topic or anything like that, then I'd be more than happy to do that kind of stuff. So signing off for now, and good golfing.